All right. Welcome to the world's most legendary podcast, In the Cold, episode 2. I'm currently walking through a neighborhood right now. And the reason being, and actually the neighborhood is going closer to, it's going towards my old producer that used to produce the first 3 podcasts, but we ain't going all the way that way. We're going to make a turn here in a second. But this episode of the podcast, I wanted to cover something that kind of just hit my mind. What is wrong with Port Huron? Of course, anybody that's watching this channel, YouTube channel, if they don't know anything about Port Huron, it's a little schmuck-ass town in Michigan that's got, it looks nice on the outside, but it seems to be missing some sort of element. One of those being common sense. So when I was walking down the street the other day, I said, I wanted to do this. I wanted to make this actually one of the podcast episodes, a full episode. And I wanted to come up with 10 of the issues that are with this city. Now, of course, I might not cover 10 today. And I got to watch behind me because people can't drive. But I'm going to try to start with 5 today. So don't mind me. I'm going to try to think of 5 things that are wrong with Port Huron. Well, the first thing I could say is wrong with Port Huron, because there's a lot of things I could say is wrong with this town. But the first thing that I'm going to say that's really wrong with Port Huron is its economical structure. For example, look at these houses right here. You see this shit. Houses look nice, huh? Looks like the type of place you would want to move. Maybe you're thinking raising a family here just based on how these houses look, huh? Looks good, huh? If you can see that greenhouse, nice 2-car garage, everything looks like it's a type of place where people got their shit together, huh? The truth be told is not everything is what it seems. The economic structure here is not really set up for a lot of people to afford to live like this. This is probably one of the nicer looking towns that has some of the shittiest job prospects. I have so many friends that complain about Port Huron, that they can't make enough money. I myself struggle to make money in Port Huron. It's just not a money maker. Of course, you have those delusional people that'll say, well, for example, my other producer, when I used to mention this to him, he's like, well, a lot of people, they want to move to another town. And some people be like, well, why, when a house looks like this and this and this, would you want to move to another town? Because there's not a lot of towns in the state of Michigan that look this great, right? Well, the truth be told is this town economically is not what it looks like. The houses are nice, but the money is very, 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 it's kind of held into one particular type of people. It's really old money. This town has a lot of old money and not a lot of new money. So the economical structure is not really based on anything here. It's just based on what was made in the past. The other part of the money is coming from some sort of government subsidized program. A lot of these people, man, they run certain businesses that we don't know about. They take the business and they're able to use it for whatever. Hold on, I'm going to turn around here. They're able to take the money and assert it and use it for whatever they want to use it for. And sometimes it ends up leading to a house. Some people take out loans around here. Others, they have a career that they do, but there's something also behind the career that they're doing that they're getting scraping money off the top. A lot of people got some fraudulent shit going on here, man. So you think that they own this mansion because, if you look at the jobs that are available in Port Huron, it's mostly just restaurant and factory jobs. And if you did the median income of a factory and a restaurant job, it doesn't make enough to buy a house like this. Or, unless you are an owner of that restaurant and you're making millions. So the money that people are getting is coming from, other sources that are kind of hard to find. Hey, that right there was an electrician. So he's obviously got his own business. Um, you know, so that's where the number one problem is with Port Huron, is that where the hell is the money coming from? How do they even get money around here? And the truth be told is they're getting it from, some of them are getting it from sources that can't be accounted for, whether it's a tax break or some sort of business they liquefied. It isn't really a town where you're going to make $100,000 a year unless you have $100,000 a year career. Now you may have a few nurses, a few doctors, and a few lawyers. That's about it. So, but you see these houses right here, it seems like there's plenty of these type of houses. For an average guy like myself, you'd think I'd be having one living here. But the truth be told is, the answer is no. That's not the makeup of this place. The people that have this stuff are very, very old. There might be a few young people. Not only that, a lot of people are paying mortgages on a home. So, I'm going to be honest with you. They have to work triple, octo amount to be able to afford these houses. Some of these houses are not that expensive either. I mean, they could run you anywhere from $90,000 to, $200,000, which is pretty cheap for a town that's supposed to be bordering the water. So that's the first problem with Port Huron, is that, see, this is another thing I don't like is, the unnecessary traffic. But that's the first thing, is the economic structure doesn't match what they're trying to make it look like. For example, the rent here is $2,000 a month. I mean, it could range that high. They're building condos downtown in Port Huron, but who's going to be able to afford $2,500 a month when most of the people in this town are just barely scraping by? Oh my God. Everybody's driving nice cars and living in nice houses, but they're paying triple, like the house right here, like these houses right here are more affordable than paying rent and paying rent at an apartment. So most people that get these houses, man, they get them on a mortgage. The mortgage is only $600-700 a month, which is kind of weird. Economic structure is kind of backwards. Shouldn't it be cheaper to rent an apartment than to buy a house? So that's my first problem with Port Huron, is that this town wants to grow, but they only want to afford rich people the opportunity to live here, or whatever they call rich, and not the average citizen. The average citizen that is living here is struggling, living paycheck to paycheck. They might work somewhere for a short period of time, and then, or maybe they have some sort of business that they're doing, but, it just doesn't seem like the income matches what people can afford. However, a lot of the people that have houses, they probably go out of town to get it. That's why, that's where the money is coming from, because the money's not coming from here. I mean, the median income here, I think, allegedly they claim is $40,000 a year. But I can just look at this place and every single job that they have out here, and I can make an estimate that it's definitely way less than $40,000. A restaurant job does not pay $40,000, at least not here. Of course, people will probably correct me and say, well, I make $40,000 as a waitress in Port Huron. Where? Because maybe I might have to get that job. So my estimate to me is probably half of that. So it's hard for people to afford. I've noticed that homeless people there's a lot of homeless people starting to show up here. There's a lot more people holding signs up that are hungry. And poverty is really starting to hit this town, because this town is one of those towns where they try to act like it's so lucrative to live here. It's so, so prestigious, and it's really not. Every person that comes here is trying to build something that, may be kind of petty, which gets me into my second reason why Port Huron stinks. The social strata. And when I talk about the social strata, I'm actually talking about multiple problems. One, the people here are very rude. Now this town, the way it looks, you'd figure it'd be like Mayberry. You'd figure the people would know how to drive correctly. They would know how to say hello. You'd think it'd be easier for the average man and woman, and I'm going to say the average man because I'm a man, to be able to find a wife, have kids, and live a comfortable living, but it's not. You know, um, you got the element of snooty, low-level people that live here, and I'm not going to get into trying to call this town like, people call it Po-Ho Huron, or they call all these hoes or Po-Hos. Truth be told is yes, that's one of the issue. The other issue is that those same Po-Hos, even if rather they are a hoe or not, are not very good people. You know what I'm saying? And oh my God, dude, I hate this. I can't stand it when cars drive by me. It distracts me. So we have the element of that. Socially, people are not very intelligent here as well. A lot of low-level people live here. One of the biggest issues is drugs. Now, people will say in Port Huron, well, drugs is a problem everywhere. I'm going to be honest with you. I lived in places like Flint, Phoenix, Arizona. Please don't turn this way. You always got to turn my way. I can't get away from none of the traffic. Even if I try to go in the back alley, people going to try to come back there. So let me try to circle out of this neighborhood, because it's going to get distracting. There's 3, 4, 5 cars passing. It makes it hard to talk. Like, please go away. I hate it when people drive this way. Let me try going through here. But, socially, people are not very inept. For the most part, people are on drugs. Now people used to call this, they say this town is like Port Heroin because there's so much heroin going through here. And I'm not even trying to be funny. That's the truth. There's a lot of people on heroin, meth, crack. This place is notorious. And then, like, when you look at this town, it don't look like a type of crackhead town. Like, I came from Flint. Flint is the type of town where you would expect to see dope fiends walking out in the middle of the open. But, call me crazy. I didn't see as many of them as I saw here in the 2 years that I was living. Maybe it was the pandemic that made the crackheads stay in the house. I don't know. But I don't see a lot of dope heads just walk right out in the open in this town. And it is an issue that has never been corrected. They welcome those type of characters here, and they intermingle with the regular characters, and it taints the regular characters. Now I got to turn around again. So we have an issue with drugs. Now, of course, people will say, well, every town has an issue with drugs. Yeah, but this town seems like it has an overabundance of what it should have for how nice it looks. Look, I'm not saying any town, please do not turn here, bus. I'm not saying all towns don't have their issues with drugs. But this town seems to have, it seems like a majority of the population is on something. And that's what has led to a lot of the people here kind of being dummied down. A lot of people are dummied down here, and it's not even their fault, because the drugs is being handed to them by these wicked pharmaceutical places out here. You got the element of the mental health sphere here that has way too much power. Another thing is that a lot of these crackheads out here, they get coddled, they don't get corrected and told that they need to get sober. Some of these people will come out here, they're supposed to be in rehab, and they might spend one day in rehab and they'll be out of there, and now they're in the street, and they're able to get their plugs and contacts and all that stuff out here. That's I'm going to touch on that. That's basically the thing. I've really only touched the surface on the issue of the social problem here. Now, the third problem I'm going to get into is these motherfuckers can't drive. All right? I mean, even in this neighborhood, they can't drive. They're all over the damn road. You know what I'm saying? They act like the road is their motherfucking oyster, and, nobody's entitled to the road for them. They have no manners when it comes to driving. When it comes to pedestrians, they'll run your ass over and keep on going. That also correlates with the drugs as well, because you got a lot of crackheads and dope fiends driving nice cars. So, that's another issue. Because, boy, I tell you, I mean, I've been all over the United States. I don't think I've ever seen a town this small that has this worse of driving. And the people need to pick up. Look at this. Here come another dumb. Well, no, they're going to keep going straight. But you've seen the amount of cars that came through this neighborhood. Most of them don't even live here. They just driving through here. Why? They can't turn around at McDonald's. No, they just want to drive through the neighborhood. It's an irritation. I mean, shoot, this is busy for a neighborhood. I've never seen that before. It's supposed to be the suburbs. And you got thousands of cars driving through this neighborhood. Now it's not as loud as where I live, but it's bad enough to where I would be irritated. Like, man, we got 50, 60 cars every minute passing through this neighborhood, but it gets quiet after about 10 minutes. And then you got your 10, 20 minutes of peace. At least you ain't got have to have your headphones on, because the busy streets are much, much worse. Much, much worse with driving. But yes, the three things, I think the first thing I said, see, here comes another car, man. I don't even know if I could live in this neighborhood now. Go on. Dude, I could go through the quietest neighborhood and I'm still going to have people drive past me. So driving is a big issue in this town. When you got people that are dope fiends with cars and driver's license and access to nice things, it leads to tragedy. You know how many car accidents that happen in this road over here I'm about to walk towards, known as Pine Grove. People will crash into the bus just so they can get home. And that's one of the issues with Port Huron. I try to think of a fourth scenario. What's the fourth scenario? Because, I think I covered the social issue. Of course, I could touch on another thing with the social issue is that everybody knows each other so well here. I mean, even if you get a girlfriend and you break up with that girl, she's going to be intermingled with your circle. So there's a chance you could see them with somebody you know very well. If you let's say you find somebody that cuts your hair very well and you don't want them cutting your hair, and you go to counseling, their house is right across the street from your house. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just using that as an example. I know it sounds random, but it's like if you get a job and you don't like your boss and you try to leave that job and go to another job, there's a chance that you'll see that boss could transfer to that job and be your boss there in Port Huron. Everybody knows each other, even your enemies. It's almost a town where you have to keep your enemies close, and like they say, keep your enemies close, and your friends closer. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. I don't know, but this is one of those towns where you have to keep your enemy close, because chances are your enemy is going to be somebody you're going to have to use in business financially. That person's going to have resources that you need, and you almost have to, kiss their, I don't want to say kiss their butt, but you're going to have to deal with them down the line eventually. And I think that's what makes this town a little shitty. There's no nuance. The ideas that they spew out in this town is, like, for example, this town has this thing where they think this rock music and this gothic style of hip hop or whatever they're trying to do out here is appealing for some reason. For some reason, nobody tells these people that I don't want to even quote a band, because it's not even those kind of things. It's more of a shitty ass local basement band, watered down version of what they think rock and roll is. There's just too much hippiness in a lot of the music out here. Like for example, Boat Night. Boat Night's got to be one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. Because, I mean, for me personally, if you're going to run an event that large in a town this small, the variety of music should be, like, unlimited. I mean, you're talking about Port Huron is 60 miles away from Detroit. And if anybody doesn't know this, and this is where I mentioned Food Stamp Jack, which is my stage name. Yes, I am a house music producer / DJ. I have that stuff on my YouTube. But what I find just sad is that they don't have anything. They love to play a lot of that watered down, hey, little lady to the left, to the right, hey, like bar style, country bumpkin, shitty sounding ass, I don't know what it is. I would say country music. And it dominates and controls boat night. And for the younger contingent of the generation, they're not able to expand because the older contingent, the old people, they want to keep this shit stuck in it, in in the 50s, in the 60s and 70s. They want to make it look like it's a country town, and it's not a country town. This is like a country town to me is something they got corn and all kinds of plants growing. It's the middle of nowhere. This is not a country town. This is just a town. It's I think, I would say any town more than like 10,000, maybe 15, I'm going to say more than about 20,000, it's a medium-sized town. You guys got 30,000 people, but they want to label it as a country town. Well, a real country town has got way less than 10,000 people, I would say, and is usually much, much friendlier. I don't assert a lot of these towns in Michigan as country towns because to me, a country town, usually a country vibe is very friendly. Now some people will say I'm wrong, but for me, in order for a town to be country, it has to be small, the middle of nowhere, and there has to be farmers around. And none of these motherfuckers are farmers. They're regular people living in a town that has 27,000 or more. And they think because they play country music on the radio or whatever they hear on WBTI here, the local news station, that they're a quote-unquote country kid. You're not a country kid unless you've actually done farm work. It's the same with these girls that call themselves country girls. Well, you're a girl that lived in the dead middle of nowhere, but you had a house with Wi-Fi and direct TV. You had cable TV and internet and a smartphone. You never went outside and picked no corn or did anything. So you're not a country girl. You're a middle of nowhere. You're a small town girl that, that is asserting a country vibe. There's a difference. Because real country girls, they know how to get down. They know how to cook, they know how to clean, and they strong. And these broads don't have that ability. Some people say, well, I can. I'm sure I'm going to get people commenting, or if anybody sees this podcast and they're listen all the way and understand what I'm trying to get at, they'll probably say, well, Lance, I'm a country girl. I know how to do all that stuff. Well, good for you. But I'm saying the majority don't fucking know how to do that. So, that's the thing that I noticed about Port Huron is that everybody's trying to pretend to be something they're not. You got dudes out here trying to be thugs. It's like, man, none of you motherfuckers are from Detroit. I've been to Detroit. I've lived in Flint. I've been around cats that are really about that life. Man, I'm not even trying to bluff. Some of y'all can barely drive, so I wouldn't trust you to hold a gun and go out and rob anybody because you'd probably get caught with how bad of a driver you are. All the cops have to do is, hey, look, watch out for that boy Tom that can't stay inside the lines on the road, and they got you. So I look at this town as just a low-level, wanna-be something town, but it's missing an identity because the people that run it want to keep it old. They don't want to update it. But I also understand why the older people don't want to give away this town to the youth, because the youth is just too stupid here. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's almost like having a son that's not bright enough to run a business. You can't give your business to your son if he's stupid. He's going to run it into the ground. So even though this town sucks because it's stuck in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, it's what's keeping it alive for now. But it still makes it unappealing for people who are smart and actually probably could make this town better. The problem is they're not open-minded. And that's what gets me back to the boat night sentiment. Like, boat night has to be one of the worst events I've ever seen anywhere. Because all they really have to do is throw in a DJ or somebody to play music, like house music, techno. I mean, all they have to do is throw in more variety, and that the party will be better. It would probably attract people from the outside. Instead, they attract, people from, no disrespect, from K-Pac, all right, and Emmett, and Marine City, and a lot of the motherfuckers that wear them little cowboy hats, and they come and they get drunk, and they don't like black people. They don't even like white people, You know, they think because they're from K-Pac, they're all that in a bag of chips. And, you know, they might be a little prejudiced, you know. They might be a little prejudiced against women. They might be prejudiced against themselves. And what ends up happening is it leads to a fight. And then you have fighting going on between two people that are low level. You know, some people say Port Huron is full of white trash. I'm not going to disagree with that. I think there is a lot of trash in this town that needs to be removed before it ever can be something, because it's not on the level of a Detroit, even Detroit being bad as it can be. It's not on the level of a Flint, even though Flint has a lot of work to do. But Flint, I've been in Flint, it has more potential. Macomb County don't like these people because Macomb County people actually, you know, those are the people that, you know, they're a hustle and bustle type of county, you know, and they look at this town as kind of like a welfare, druggy town full of cocky bitches, and they would be right. So Port Huron is missing a personality. Shit, I think I covered pretty much all the things from those particular three perspectives. I think the fourth thing that Port Huron has an issue with is people of high level intellect. You know, if somebody is smart, like, you know, I'm not going to try to save myself, but if somebody doesn't fit the mold of what they're trying to push out here, which right now, you know, this town to me has way too many feminine looking dudes. You know, a lot of dudes out here, and it's no disrespect to any dude out there, but when you got purple and pink haired dudes who try to assert the authority of a man, and they have female oriented thinking thoughts, it kind of doesn't help the female population, because a lot of women in this town complain about the dudes. Well, the reason why the dudes are so you know, they're not, you know, it's hard for them to keep a man in this town is, number one, they don't promote any of these men to act like men. You know, these girls here, they want men to be feminine, just based on what I see on Facebook. Anytime you say you want men to be more, you know, emotional and be in touch with their feelings, no, you should be on Facebook promoting you want men to lead. Because small towns like this get affected by ideologies that promote feminization of men. They get affected the most, because the big towns, man, you can find a little bit of masculinity, I guess, in a thug or a gangster. But when you got a crackhead town like Port Huron and you're promoting dudes to be feminine, what do you get? You get more domestic violence. You get more dudes who, quote unquote, don't know what their sexuality is. And then it lowers the amount of pool of good quality men to have kids with. So these women end up single because they want to be in a relationship. They don't know who to be in a relationship with. They'll just be in a relationship with the cutest boy they can find. Because most of these dudes, I'm telling you, man, it's very hard to find a dude that dresses like a man. So you end up stuck with, you know, the not so savory looking characters. You know, hold on, I got to walk past a few people. And now, why am I doing a podcast and now it's on? Now there's a population of people coming. Fuck. You know, I guess it's that time of the day. So hang on, podcast people. Oh my God, dude. These people need to learn how to drive. How you doing, sir? Jesus Christ. You know, I don't get why they all have to drive through here. You know, I hope they all got a place they go to instead of just driving through here. But that's an example of what I'm talking about, man. It's just, you know, there's no pushing of masculinity here. A lot of dudes here, man, they got nose rings, you know, and this is going to stir up controversy for people that are going to hear this podcast. But when you're a feminine ass dude, you know what I'm saying? When you push feminine dudes, because this town, to be honest, out of all the towns in Michigan, and I'm sure there might be other people that might say, well, you know, hell, Michigan is way more feminine than here. These dudes here, if they were to go to any other town, bro, You want to talk about some homophobic type shit? These motherfuckers might get gay bashed. You know, like I don't want to try to sound disrespectful or be, get canceled or anything, but this is the only town I see where, purple pink haired dudes. And I got a buddy of mine who's got a master's degree. He struggles to get a job because what happens when you put people that are low level, that have that type of mindset in a position? You know who they're going to hire? They're not going to hire a guy that has a functioning brain. They're not going to hire a woman that is straight up and takes care of herself. They're going to hire? They're going to hire other people that are like that. And what it does is it leaves the rest of the population out that is actually normal to help this town grow. I'm one of those people that believe that if you don't have a high level IQ, and when I mean high level IQ, I'm talking about it I'm saying that very lightly because some people think going to college makes them smart. No, I'm talking about people that can actually think and see through the bullshit. And that's what's lacking in this town. This town has got to be one of the biggest bullshitting towns I have ever seen, and I've been all over the fucking United States. And I always wonder why nobody says anything about it. People know that it's an issue, but they don't want to fix it because it's going to hurt somebody's feelings. And listen here, I don't give a crap about hurting anybody's feelings. I live by a logic that might be a little tough for a lot of y'all. That's fine, understandable. But, like, for example, my producer had, people wonder, I got a degree in what you call an associate's degree in general education. Everybody's wondering, Lance, why don't you go be a substitute teacher for the Port Huron area school district? And I laugh at them. And they think that I'm lazy or something. I told people, I said, number one, in high school, I got treated like shit. And I'm not going to get into that sentiment until another episode. But number two, the Port Huron area schools district has got to be another situation that is an issue with this town, which I could chalk down as the fifth problem, is the education system here. It doesn't teach anything of substance to these kids. These kids, from what I have heard from other teachers are quitting and retiring early from the school system because of these damn kids. These kids out here, they raised by their mama or whoever, their little stupid ass father who doesn't tell them to respect authority. They walk up, and here's the thing about me. I couldn't be a fucking substitute teacher at Port Huron High School, my alma mater, and have one of them kids disrespect me because I'll catch a prison sentence. I'll take my fucking backhand and smack that motherfucker like my mom used to smack me in high school. All right? And for those that don't know this, me and my adoptive mom don't really see eye to eye. We don't get along. But some of the things that she did to people, particularly to because if I talk back to my mom, I got slapped. It's the same thing. It's like, dude, these kids today, they get to disrespecting me in the school. I got to turn back around again. Please. See what I'm saying? Not able to drive. And why is that person driving on the side of this road? This is not a place for you to drive. The road is the place for you to drive. If you're not going to a destination, you got to stay on there. And that's why people get ran over here. It's a damn shame. But back to my sentiment, I'm going to let this person. Hello, sir. Back to my sentiment, I couldn't deal with the whole strange, like kids today, from what I've heard from teachers that have talked to me, because I ran into my old teacher, one of my old teachers from high school, and she told me, she's like, these kids today, man, they don't even have to show up to school anymore, and it seems like the school system, especially the Port Huron area school district, they don't make these children do shit in school. Like, if I had went to high school today, I could have graduated with a 4.0 and probably been a brain surgeon. That's how dummied down they have dummied down the system of this school. And it reflects this community. Most of these kids, 19, 20-year-old schmucks out here, I'm 30 years old. And I feel like I'm 70. And I'm not saying I'm the genius like level of thinking, but holy fuck, has these 19, 20-year-olds become so watered down. And I started to register in my head. I said, man, it's got to be the school system, because these kids, they ain't learned shit. I'll sit down and have a conversation with these 19, 20-year-old kids. And that's really part of the government programming as well that's going on. It ain't even just the Port Huron Area School District. It's the school districts all in general. But touching on a sentiment in this town, in order for this town to ever pick up its level of astutity and be a good town for people to function in, they have to make the education system serious. All right? And what I mean serious is they have to make it competitive. They have to train these students from a young age to know how to make money, to know how to problem solve, and to be kind of their own entity that doesn't need to depend on, because they want to train everybody, quote unquote, they want the woman to be strong and independent, right? Well, that should be kind of what the system is training these kids to do, but they don't have that. For the most part, they're probably still reading the same books I read. I mean, nobody gives a fuck about Gettysburg. Nobody cares about, the ancient, some of the historical things like the Civil War. All that stuff is taught in narrative. It's not taught in truth. The Civil War was fought over a damn bank, not slavery. So when they continue to reiterate all these old, tired-ass historical points that don't lead to anybody actually understanding it, because understand something. When I went to high school, when I graduated, I didn't know anything about writing a paper or where to put a comma or, a period at the end of the sentence. I still write and run on forms, partly because, I'm not in college anymore. I don't have to do it. But when I went to my first day of English 50 at St. Clair County Community College, I did not do well in it because I didn't know the basics. It took years and years for me to get to understand the basics of college and writing a paper. The school system never taught me that shit. I had a teacher that taught an English class that played music. All right, I Believe I Could Fly, and was crying during that bitch. And I'm sure there might be a few people on my friends list that'll see this podcast and they'll know who the fuck I'm talking about. That was a waste of time. So I spent most of my time in high school lollygagging around. I didn't learn anything productive. And when I got to college, I was pretty much, I was pretty much going to school to learn something that I should already have known, like basic English. I mean, even math to a certain extent was, a little bit difficult at first because, in high school, nobody puts their best effort forward because there's so many distractions. Everybody's worried about how popular they're going to be. Like I remember in high school, I didn't really care too much for the female population at Port Huron High School, but, I remember when I was on the northern side during football games, I used to get all the girls on the northern side. That's all I did was, that's another thing that is a problem with high school is that you got this competition between who's going to get the hottest chick, who's going to go to prom, homecoming, prom queen, all that dumb shit that means nothing. Like, you can't take prom queen with you anywhere. You know what I'm saying? You can't take that trophy. I mean, yeah, maybe you can reminisce about it to your kids 30 years from now, but what's the point of it if you're married? If here's the thing. Let's say that you don't marry that guy that you went to prom with. What's the point of it anyway? If you don't marry that woman, what you going to do? Bring up pictures with your current wife, if you have one in this day and age, and say, hey, check out the girl I went on the prom with. Like, it makes no damn sense. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have it. I'm just saying that that's the major focus of these school systems. It's all about fun time. It's not about learning. Then you wonder why motherfuckers are falling asleep in class. I don't want to fucking sit there and learn about Gettysburg or all these little fake surreptitious, literature books that mean nothing. They lead to nothing. They don't put, they don't teach, because in this day and age, with the age of technology, kids can start making money at 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm almost fucking jealous. I wish we had that shit when I was young. Because this whole thing with the education system, it's overrated. You know, you don't really need a college degree to be successful, but you do need some sort of education on how to make money. And that's what's lacking in the school system. So, you know, I kind of jumped off of my sentiment here to talk about it from a global perspective. But let me get back into Port Huron. What's wrong with Port Huron is you got a lot of people here. You know, if it wasn't for their parents picking up the slack and kind of knowing how to fuck the system and cook it a little bit, a lot of these kids wouldn't eat. You know, these kids think they cool because they drive their mom's BMW down the street. You know what I'm saying? You didn't pay for that BMW, your mom did. And some of these kids, man, they've never had to flip a burger. They've never had to ride a bike in the snow. They had their mom make their bed for them. They had their mom get them up in the morning. They had their grandma get them up in the morning. You know, grandpa will cater to every single mistake they make instead of correcting it and telling them, hey, do better, you piece of shit. You know, there's no tough love out here. Because, like, when you go to Flint in the hood, even them dudes raised by them single mothers are hard on their sons, man. Almost to the point of abuse, maybe even abuse. And these cats out here are just so moist and soft, and they're too friendly to their kids, and then their kids go out and get destroyed by life. Because, like, I was raised in a home where, you know, basically, I was ready to grow up at 15, 16. I had to grow up fast because I never really had the love that I really think I should have had as a kid. You know, it was fake. It was surreptitious. It wasn't real. And I'm still paying the consequences of that. That's why I come off as a cold motherfucker. Because I was raised in a cold environment. You know what I'm saying? While everybody else was like PG rated WWE, where it's just clothesline, you know, choke slam, pin, 1, 2, 3. I'm ECW, motherfucker. I'm jumping off steel ladders. You know, everything's chaotic, backflips, you know, if you know what Impact Wrestling is, X Division style shit, you know, to win the title of life, I had to put my body on the line and my soul and spirit. And it almost got me to the point to where I was almost bitter because I don't have to struggle for a lot of things where, you know, a lot of these other cats, man, they don't have it handed to them really pretty easily. And they fuck it up. You know, a lot of it is because they have too much freedom. And too much freedom isn't a good thing. You know? Anyways. No, wait, that's not it. That's not something I need. I'm not going to answer that. I've been having Scam Likely blow me up on this fucking phone. Like, more than a angry baby mama or a crazy ex-girlfriend. I mean, I probably get 20 of these phone calls a day, and I'm starting to get fucking irritated. Like, what the hell is actually going on? But, you know, I kind of didn't stick with the number on what I wanted to say, but those are really the main totes of why the Port Huron is not as great as it is. You know, you got the coddling. This town is not very friendly. There's not a lot of money, but they want a lot of money. Like, for example, the new Kmart. You know, when a lot of the businesses that used to employ young kids are also gone as well. They used to give kids a good head start, you know, especially kids that are starting from the bottom because, you know, there's quite a few kids out here that don't have money. Their parents didn't come into money or didn't work very hard. They just kind of lived off the system like my damn family did. So they never really gave their kids a head start. So if you don't get a push out here, you know, you end up, man, if this motherfucker doesn't stop bothering me, you know. Another thing you got in this town, bums that ask for shit all the time. They're never patient. Your money is their money. You know, get the fuck out of here. You know, that was somebody that messaged me and I told them that if I had something, I'd give it to them. But they keep bothering me about it and it's really pissing me off. I'm about really ready to remove them. You know, because, you know, if I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it, but I'm going to do it when I fucking want to. So, you know, but getting back to my sentiment, you know, this podcast is really long, and this is not the first episode about what's wrong with Port Huron. You know, I'm going to get ready to get off this podcast. This is the podcast in the cold, world's most legendary podcast, episode 2. I'm just kind of tackling some of the smaller issues about Port Huron. you know, and that this is what it's going to be, you know. So for anybody that doesn't, you know, let's say somebody accidentally clicks through this stupid podcast and doesn't get it, you know, I'm going to just reiterate it at the end. But there's going to be more episodes of this to come. I got to get off of here because now I'm getting blown up by other entities, and I'm sorry that I'm not able to articulate myself. I just got too many distractions. But eventually what's going to happen is I'm going to get a studio in a quiet space to where I don't have to be interfered with, because even when I walk into a suburban neighborhood, I mean, there's 50 cars driving down that area. So this is just an episode to get by. There's going to be more coming in the future. And all I got to say is good fucking night, and there will be an episode 3 of this, but this will give you kind of an understanding from my perspective what's wrong. Anyways, peace.